Disclaimer. This week, I'm going to be joined by Sunny Austin from It's a Crime and Shame YouTube channel, and we are discussing the murder of multiple women. Some of the details can be very disturbing, so please don't listen if you're sensitive to this topic. Hi everyone. I hope everybody's been well and you all had a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. We've been struggling with this strange flu. It wasn't COVID, but whatever it was, it kept coming and going, and we thought we'd be getting better, and then all of a sudden we'd start feeling sick again. In fact, Bree is still feeling under the weather, so she's not going to be with me for probably the next episode or two. But I really wanted to get some content out to you because I know it's been a while. And what I've been doing is I've been joining a YouTube channel. It's a Crime and Shame, just to do like case updates or talk about Delphi or whatever. But we also do a weekly show called Canadian True Crime. And it's me and Sunny Austin who pick a Canadian case, and we discuss it. So what I'm doing for today's episode is I'm going to take the Canadian True Crime episode that we did, the live stream that we did on Saturday of this week, and I'm going to edit it and put it in here, and hopefully it'll work as a podcast. There is some video that was taken of Willie Picton's farm and how it looks now, and there's some interrogation video as well that we played during the live stream that I'm going to cut out of there for you guys, but I'm going to link that live stream in the show notes, and if you're interested in watching that, I suggest checking that out. If you're not familiar, then you can go to, if you click on the link to the live stream, it'll replay it for you, but there's also a live chat there where while we're doing the show, I interact with the watchers. I'm usually pretty good with hitting most, if not all, of the comments and questions that come through. So, and I do try to read the question before I'm answering it. So that's kind of what you're going to hear. And it's mostly just a conversation between Sunny and I about this case and about the information that we were able to find out on the field trip that Sunny took to that pig farm. So hopefully it works out, but it is an episode, it is content for you, so I hope you enjoy it. And at the end of that live stream, I'll come back and just kind of sum it up for you. And like I said, if you want to join us on Saturdays and have a real-time conversation with me, just click on that show link. You can subscribe to that page. You can also subscribe to our True Crime Story podcast YouTube page. And those live streams will also be up there for you. But for now, here we go with my first, I guess, podcast from a live stream. I've done the live streams before, but I've never tried to put them into a podcast episode. So hopefully it works out. Hopefully you enjoy it, and I will talk to you when it's done.
Hey guys, welcome to today's True Crime Canadian Cases. Hey, Shireen.
Hey.
Hey.
Ron. Hey, Sharon. Hey, Tom.
Yeah. Hey guys. So we were doing True Crime Canada. So both of us are from Canada. I'm from Vancouver, BC, and Charmaine, you're from
Alberta,
which I've lived. We lived about 40 minutes apart when I lived out over there. Didn't know Charmaine at all until she came to the channel, and now she's been a good Canadian friend of mine. So small world, eh?
No kidding. Hey, Stevie, how are you?
Oh, hey, Stevie, we were just talking about you. Your ears must have been burning.
I was telling her you did such a good job on your coverage of this case. I really liked your video.
I really did. Yeah, yes. I didn't know he'd done one because until Charmaine was just telling me here. So, huge story. Oh, you didn't know I was a Canuck, eh? Yeah.
Sure is.
Well, probably if you don't watch me enough, you don't hear the all. I always say a lot because I know we're known for it. White.
And I don't say that. I
And I,
don't.
yeah, I always have,
Eh? You do. You really do. You talk like a Canadian.
So yeah, so today we're going to be covering Robert Picton case, the pig farmer, a huge case, uh, basically biggest serial killer case in Canada.
Hmm.
And so we thought we would opt to talk about this one today. And in just a little bit too, I'm going to make you guys suffer. I'm going to literally take you from our place to the Picton farm and go along the drive with us till we get there. Now, the only downfall was, Charmaine, like I told you, that it was the coldest day. It just like God's, like sometimes you just go, what the heck? Because the gods made it the coldest day here yet. And when we got there, first of all, there was snow in the Port Coquitlam Pit Meadows area, and I'm sitting there and never use an iPhone. Honestly, you need a battery pack thing for iPhones because they truly suck in the cold. Like I
Hmm.
cannot stress that enough. iPhones suck in the cold. So my battery was fully charged and da 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 da. Well, so I'm sitting here, do 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 do, and the nip in the air, my fingers started freezing very fast. And
Hmm.
anyway, so I'm sitting there recording, and good thing I got really everything we needed to see because there's not like there's a lot left of Picton Farms. But
Yeah.
all of a sudden, I'm sitting there, go record again after I see this birdie, and uh, wait, what? The phone's dead. Wait, what do you mean? The phone just shut off, right? And so then all of a sudden, I get it to turn back on, all of like 10 seconds, not even, and then all of a sudden it's like red battery dead, and I'm
Oh.
just like, are you kidding me?
But
Really?
you got what you came for.
But
So,
you know what? I did, but I just couldn't believe that I woke up that morning the other day. It was sunny, right? I look over later again, it's sunny. And then the afternoon comes, miserable,
hmm.
freaking looks like it's about to snow. Starts snowing just a little bit just as we leave. And I'm going, are you serious? Like, really? Really? But, anyways,
That's
uh,
okay.
it was my first true crime adventure.
I
Uh,
think that it's phenomenal. I was so excited when I realized that you were so close to where that farm was. I was like, Sonny,
yeah.
you should drive out there. It's like 20 miles from you, I think it was, or 15 or
Well, it's
something.
like, yeah, it's like 20 minutes. Like, because when this story first broke, which was in 2002, I lived in Coquitlam. So,
So you lived right there.
like, I lived right in Coquitlam, and Port Coquitlam's right beside Coquitlam. So it was just over like the little bridge or before it type of thing. And yeah, so I remember this story. I am meaning I just remember it because I was a lot younger then.
Hmm.
And I just remember it about hearing about this pig farm, and and all these bodies that were found on this pig farm. That's I wasn't into no true crime way back then or nothing
Hmm.
like that. Just remember it because obviously it's like right on your doorstep. And yeah, anyways, I'll let you start talking a little bit about it if you want, and then
Well, I think that this is a really good segue, I think, into some Canadian true crime like the Highway of Tears, missing and murdered women, Indigenous women, and I apologize, Sunny, but I can't remember what we're allowed to call um, street workers on YouTube. Like, I don't want to get to
oh, I just call them ladies of the night or escorts, whatever. Just call them
right. So
escorts.
these women that live these high risk lifestyles, there are so many missing and murdered in Canada, and that's a huge undertaking to do all of that. I guess investigative reporting, but this pig farmer, Willie Picton. Um, so in and around Vancouver, there were over 144 missing and murdered women. They suspect Willie of murdering more than 40 women, but there was never enough evidence to point to that. But Sonny's got some video to show that he actually confesses to a cellmate about some of that. But like I said, this is a good segue case, I think, to get into some of the other Canadian true crime cases that are kind of close to home for both Sonny and I because they span both of our provinces. Um, Willie Picton obviously is probably the most prolific serial killer in Canadian history. Um, I don't know if it's a good time to bring it up, but little side note, because I want you guys to keep this in your mind that this man, um, he is eligible for day parole next month and eligible for full parole in 2027. So wrap your head around that as we go through and we talk about the investigation and what this man did and basically the sentence that he served. If obviously it's not justice, but it just illustrates how messed up our Canadian justice system is. There have been changes made and things are
Right.
getting better, but nowhere near where it needs to be. So
Well, see, and tell them about the consecutive thing as well.
right. So I'm not 100% sure when the consecutive sentences became an option for our criminal justice system. I do know that there was a case in Calgary and Airdrie just a few years ago where grandparents and their little grandson went missing and were murdered. And that man who committed that crime was given the first consecutive sentence in at least Albertan history. I think it was Canadian history, but because he had committed that triple homicide, he has to serve 75 years before he comes up for parole. And like I said, I don't know if it's the Alberta first or if it's a Canadian wide first, but he was given the first consecutive sentence. So at the time of Willie Picton, 25 years was it. Same as Paul Bernardo, if you can believe that or not. Like he served his 25 years and he's up
Yeah.
for parole and he comes up for parole. He'll never get parole, but there's another facet to our criminal justice system where if somebody's labeled a dangerous offender, that raises the requirement to reach parole. But Willie Picton never got put there. So
Yeah, because I when I saw that, that when they were talking about all the life, like that he had enough life sentences, I thought that that meant there was over 100, like meaning, well, he can't. I mean, he'll be dead in 100 years, so
yeah,
you can't get any further than that. I thought so. I was like, okay, so they just obviously don't want to spend no more money than they've already spent,
yeah.
basically, and
And to me, I feel like some of the
I,
video that you got, I'm pretty sure I haven't seen what you have exactly, but I do know what you're talking about with the cellmate confessions or whatever.
yeah,
And he made a few different statements alluding to wanting to get to the big 50. He wants his victim number to be 50.
yeah,
So the man right now is in his 70s. So just entertain the possibility that this man would still have the capability to get to that number if he gets out on parole. If he's served his natural
whoops,
sentence.
I hid myself somewhere.
Um,
1 second.
it's terrifying to think, and trying to dig in to find out those other. And I'm getting way ahead of our coverage here, but
It's
trying
okay.
to figure out why those. Okay, so the 20 other charges were stayed; they didn't go to trial, but. In my mind, can't they bring those back and prosecute him for those now? Like, is that a possibility? I don't know,
Right.
but yeah.
And right, uh, or go tear down some of those houses where they sold off the land to that they
Hmm.
didn't check. But because I mean, where I read it said 49, and that yeah, he wanted to make it to 50 or whatever.
Yeah, the big
Um,
50. And
Sick
so,
noise.
and this guy, we
Mhm.
can say that this guy never had a chance. But when I say that, lots of people are abused, lots of people are brought up in terrible households and they don't become what he is. So when I say he never had a chance, I don't mean it as any kind of mitigating factor or anything like that. What I mean is like this kid was raised on this pig farm with his parents who were both very abusive. They were never taught anything about personal hygiene. He was bullied at school relentlessly because of his hygiene or lack thereof. They called him, what was it? Stinky Piggy
Oh
was his
yeah,
nickname. He never really had any friends. He made a couple of friends that maybe felt sorry for him, whatever. And the only time he really got any kind of acceptance is when he had money and he was hosting these parties.
mm,
And then all of a sudden, he started feeling like he was important to a certain group of people.
Yeah, to the like probably Hell's Angels, uh,
Yeah, I
bikers. Yeah,
believe when I want to say Willie was 14 years old when his older brother David, I believe, he had just gotten his driver's license, and he was driving down the road, and for whatever reason he ran over a boy. I can't remember how old the little boy was, but he ran him over. And when the brother looked in the rearview mirror, he saw the boy laying in the road, bloodied. So instead of calling the police or trying to render help, he rushed home to tell his mom what he had done, what had happened. So his mom goes back to the scene, says, well, this boy is dead, and basically rolls him into a ditch that had filled with water. The boy, his body was found the next day after his parents reported him missing, but he actually died of drowning. So he wasn't dead. So technically speaking, Willie's mom committed a murder covering up for an accident that her son would have, or that her son had. So this is kind of the epitome of the
yeah,
environment that he was raised in. Sometimes when he was feeling lonely or scared or something, he would hide in and under pig carcasses. Willie also bought himself a little baby calf, and this was his best friend. It was his pet. He loved this calf. And he come home from school one day to find out that the calf had been butchered, and that's what they were eating for dinner. So, like I said, he didn't have a chance at being a normal, functioning member of society. No excuse for what he ended up doing, but yeah, I don't know
yeah.
if you
Same
want.
with the sister too. I
She
remember.
was she was plucked out of the house though because the dad didn't think the pig farm was a good place for a
Yeah,
girl to grow up.
but
Fair enough,
she was deemed as a weirdo.
but like the pigs and the livestock were allowed to roam freely around that farm, even in the family home. Everything was covered in grime and crap, and everything stunk. Everything was gross, and this was just their life. They didn't. I don't know if they knew any different, but this was their life. This was normal to them.
Yeah,
So, like I said,
that's the sad part. Bring us back on here.
his IQ. Okay, so everybody, a lot of reports say that he was mentally challenged, I guess, but his IQ is he scored an 86, and the normal or average range is between 85 and 100. So he's on the very low end of average intelligence. So he's not he's no Jesse Miss Kelly, put it that way. Like he's in the normal range of intelligence. And I think that comes from not going to school, obviously, and being raised the way he was, obviously. I don't think, to me, I think he was calculated. He was intelligent enough to get away with this for so long, and the police helped him out a lot with getting away with it for so long because they straight up refused to investigate it. There was this, and still to a certain degree, they have this belief that these ladies of the night, yay me, I remembered, and drug addicted women or even indigenous women just have a habit of getting on a bus and going to the next town and nobody ever hears from them again. And I guess they don't want to waste their time looking into something that's probably not a crime. So this, and I mean, they said that in this case that they're not going to investigate these disappearances because they're not technically disappearances. Nobody is missing them. So that attitude helped Willie get away with this for as long as he did. To me, it has nothing to do with his IQ. He's not. He's 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 lower intelligence, but in his environment, he thrived. He
Yeah,
was just fine as a pig farmer
well, he's a meat cutter. Don't forget.
and a butcher. Like he dropped out of school and he got a job as a butcher, and he did just fine. His social intelligence obviously was probably a little bit lower than that, just because he wasn't socialized. He took very terrible care of himself, so people didn't want to be close to him. He couldn't connect with people. But I don't know that that has a lot to do with his actual IQ. very cunning, surprisingly articulate. Yeah, and I mean, he does have a little bit of a speech impediment, but again, that doesn't say anything to me about his intelligence. And he did score an 86. And
I'm
yeah,
not even sure what 86 means. 86, what? I
so
don't know.
the average range on an IQ test scores from 85 to 100. The
Okay.
average is around 100. So,
Mm,
I've never done an IQ test, but I think I'd probably score around maybe a 95 or so, just a little below the average range, just because
same.
I can be stupid. But
Well,
anyways, he was in that normal range. So to me, it doesn't play a part in this. And I'm I'm never one to say, well, it's because he didn't have an education, he turned into a psychopath. No, his upbringing turned him into a psychopath. Um,
right.
just my opinion.
Probably more
Um,
accurate. Yeah. To be honest with
yeah,
you.
especially when you take into account everything that I don't want to say everything that happened to him or anything that he went through, but just the way he was raised and the environment that he was brought up in and not made to go to school. Even when they did go to school, I read many reports that said, they had to work on their farm 4 days a week from sun up to sundown, and they were free to go to school maybe 2 days a week. And even those 2 days a week, him and his brother both skipped out and would go home and hide until the end of the school day, and they could go out and do their chores because that's where they prefer to be. So he had no education, and that's what placed him there. But he wasn't born with any mental disabilities or anything like that. It's strictly an education thing, in my humble opinion.
I wonder how much it played into the fact of his mom doing that to that boy. Um,
That I think, in my opinion, that taught him to. It's
Kill and
okay
hide.
to do what, as long as you don't get caught, your actions are
Mhm.
okay. Doesn't matter how bad they are. And just like his little baby calf pet being slaughtered and the family eating it, that probably
Yeah.
helped mold his idea, like how he felt about love and companionship. And, you know, when you have a pet, you're almost mothering them, you're parenting them, that is your baby. So for his family just to consume this pet and it meant nothing, it probably helped form some of his ideas. And that was probably a very emotionally devastating thing. I couldn't imagine what that would be like. I have no pity for this man. Don't take that the wrong way. But
Yeah, Peggy Palace. Yeah. But it must have been because he thrived on the farm. Absolutely. You
yeah.
know, I don't know why, but Kegan Klein keeps jumping in my head here. Uh, somebody, like when people are in their element, and the
Hmm.
pig farm and that all that is his element,
Hmm.
again. So it's kind of like all of us, right? We all kind of have our little specialties that we're good at. So with me, it's customer service, and I'm a people person, you know, and I'm, like an empathic. So I know that those are my best attributes. Stick me with math and all that shit, gonna freaking flunk, fail, fooey shit. Can't, that stuff. But put me in my element, and I'll
And we
thrive in
excel.
those
And
things.
every
Yeah.
single human on the planet, that's kind of how we choose our path in life, what we're good at and what we're not good at. We kind of steer away from those things that we're not good at.
Yeah.
And
And
obviously,
yeah. And the more you do it, the more you get. Now, obviously, like, I mean, the gist of it is most of these people were indigenous females.
mhm,
And again, it's kind of like what happened in the Ray Hanish case.
mhm,
Oh, so he's gay. So, he lived that style. He kind of, this is the stuff that happens. So,
mhm.
and so, right. So remember there was, it wasn't even done, charged as a murder. Now it finally escalated to being Garrett Kurtz being charged for his murder. But it's just sad that,
It's the attitude
yeah,
towards these. Um,
night, night workers, if you want to call them. But
yeah.
anyways, or,
So,
indigenous. Yeah. Sad.
so Willie's parents died in the 70s, and I'm sorry, my mathing isn't mathing, but I can't remember how old they were. But
So, 70s, I think it was.
yeah,
Or
they died in their 70s, but in the 1970s as well. So Willie and his brother inherited that farm,
yeah.
and they tried their best to run it the way the family did, but they sucked at it. They weren't good at it. So they decided to sell off portions of the land. Well, at that point, I think they sold it for over $5 million. So all of a sudden, these pig farmers are filthy rich and they have no idea what to do with their money.
Yeah.
And so they end up renovating one of the slaughterhouses, and they start a nonprofit society,
Mhm.
and they open up what's called the Piggy Palace is what they called it. And so, and this never made sense to me, Stevie. Maybe because you obviously researched a lot, which I didn't research a whole lot. This is kind of all what I've learned over the years. But um, now they said it was nonprofit. They were going to hold
Right.
um, musical like concerts. Um, I don't know, just kind of uh, like a what is it called? What did they call it? I should Google it.
For which?
For the Piggy Palace, they're not for profit organization that they actually
Yeah.
registered with the government,
Yeah.
and it was for a good time, like just a good time society or something. I can't remember off the top of my head, but
Let's see. It says the Piggy Palace, 1996, claiming to organize, coordinate, manage, and operate special events, functions, dances, shows, and exhibitions on behalf of services, organizations, sports organizations, and worthy groups. It includes raves, wild parties featuring Vancouver S workers, and gatherings in the converted slaughterhouse.
mhm.
Yeah.
But I struggle to know how that was approved as a not for profit. Like what I don't understand. That's one thing that I don't understand, because what this thing turned into was basically a party house for the Hells Angels, which, as I understand it, Willie's
Right.
brother joined that. I don't know if he was a hanger honor or if he was an actual member or whatever, but the Hells Angels would come there, and their escorts would come there, and you know what I mean? They had one
Well,
party that had over 1,800 people at it. So it was just literally a party house, and they were able to do it with that many people because
yeah.
they had made this not for profit.
Now, Charmaine, just quickly, so it says, yeah, like they even attract as many as 2,000 people and members of the Hell Angels, but it says the society's nonprofit status was removed the following year for the inability to produce financial statements. So it
Mhm.
was subsequently disbanded.
Right. But I mean, like I said, I struggle to understand why they went the not-for-profit way.
Right.
Um, so Stevie said, so they were claiming they would hold the events and then donate the money. Okay.
Yeah,
But
we
to
don't
be
hold
fair,
that
it only lasted 2
bullshit.
years before they were shut down. No.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Because I could never understand what makes that like a not-for-profit. It sounds to me like you just want to build like a bar or a party
Mhm.
house or something. What
It was
if they were
probably for
planning on
tax
donating?
reasons.
Yeah, and planning on donating the money.
Yeah.
That sounds absolutely more reasonable. Like
We
why? Yeah,
raised a
I
hundred.
mean, it makes no sense to me. If you want to open a bar, then open a bar. You know.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm sure it had something to do with, I mean, if anyone can save away on paying taxes in a certain way on how to do things. So I'm sure the charity thing, here, let's make 10,000 and here, give $1 to charity type of shit. But anyway, you know how it is.
so
It's usually to do with that stuff.
Anne also asks, what do you think about knowing right from wrong? And vis-a-vis perps like this guy, I think they rationalize what they're doing or what they want to do as the right thing. Um, I don't think that he ever put that much thought into it. There were certain people who were probably intended victims who got away, um, where Willie had said, if I see you out on the street again, or if you don't clean up your act, then you're going to be next type thing. Acting as though he was doing a righteous thing by trying to clean the streets or help these women make better choices in life or whatever. But that to me it's an excuse after the fact for what he was doing. And probably, I don't know, because according to reports, he didn't drink, he didn't do drugs or anything. So in my mind, that would be something that a drunk guy would say, not a
Not crazy. Yeah.
just kind of crazy. Like why did certain women live and get that warning where other women didn't? There's no there's no rationalizing anything. I don't think that he thought that far into it, right or wrong. I don't think he ever categorized what he was doing. He was doing what made him feel good. What, when he did his first crime, reports say that that's kind of when, and when I say reports say, this is all just speculation because he's never come out and talked about it. We don't know what was in his mind. And I also would like to say that psychologists who analyzed that video of the undercover cop had said, well, they don't ask these perpetrators why they did what they did because that's not something that a bro would ask. But I would ask my bro, if he's telling me that he did all these things, I would say, like, why'd you do that? Like, what's up with that? But apparently that question would make Willie suspicious, but he's spilling his, like, that to me would be a natural question if you're a criminal or not, to say, wow, man, do you hate women? Like, what was going on in your head? Like, why did you do that? But he never did. And there was never any insight into his actual motive for doing this stuff. Nobody asked him because they assumed he wouldn't tell them. So now we all have to just speculate and assume because of his upbringing and this and that is why he did it. But we'll never know. And I'd like to know if anybody ever read his manuscript, because he wrote a manuscript in jail and he sent it to somebody who was, I believe, a retired construction worker who ended up publishing it and putting it on Amazon. It sold for $15 a copy. I never saw it, but I'd like to know if anybody did read it. But at the same time, in there, he said he's a patsy. He's a fall guy for a bunch of other people that were involved. So you're never going to know the truth. But backing up, I don't think he ever tried even to, he was just doing what made him feel good because he had no social connection. He had no social life other than these drug addicts and high-risk women. And like it said in the interview, it wasn't even a challenge for him at some point because they were addicted to heroin. Instead of injecting them with heroin, he would be injecting them with antifreeze.
Antifreeze, yeah. 5 to 10 minutes, he said, dead.
Yeah.
And then he would grind some up and feed them to the piggies.
Yeah. Most times he would feed them to the piggies, and other times he would grind them up with other meats and sell the meat, like, and take it to a animal waste rendering plant
in Vancouver.
And honestly, the one fella, he was an ex-truck driver who wound up, he was working somewhere and he would have to go to the farm to pick up his paycheck from Willie, and he saw a bunch of guns and stuff, so he reported that to the police, and the police ended up going to the farm to search the farm for illegal firearms. And they noticed certain things that made them. It's still available, Stevie?
He says 3K. He says 3K.
3K. Oh, that is probably like illegal, but Willie's not going to make any money off of that. But anyways, I can't remember what I was saying. But
the truck driver guy you were talking about.
Right. So the police went there to investigate the firearms thing, and they found an inhaler.
Yeah.
Which wasn't out of the norm or anything, but the inhaler happened to have the name of a missing woman on it. So that's what sparked an investigation. In my opinion, these types of perps think right is what gives them what they want. Fair enough. Very true. But the thought, I don't know. I don't know what it's like to think like a psychopath. I don't think, because crazy people don't know they're crazy. So perhaps I'm crazy. I don't know. But I would think that there's an actual thought process to go before you make a decision. If you know something is wrong, then you're going to take steps to cover your tracks if you're going to do it anyways, because it's something that makes you feel good. Like if I want to have a cigarette, let's say, indoors because it's -40 out, I'm going to take steps to protect myself from getting caught from having that cigarette because I know I'm not supposed to do it. But if I was crazy and I didn't give a crap what anybody thought because I don't think right, I'm just going to light up. Like I've seen people do stuff like that. It's a very small, stupid example, I know, but I'm just trying to, get across what I'm thinking when it comes to his not motivation, but his thought process. I just don't think that he put any thought into it because I do not think he was crazy. I don't think that he was even not criminally responsible in any fashion. He knew what he was doing. And he did it because he liked doing it, because it made him feel something. It made him feel a certain way that he wasn't getting anywhere else. So I don't know, other than getting into the trial, maybe we should. It's very interesting to me because, after he was sentenced, which was baloney, but after we watch this video, we'll talk about what happened at the trial and the sentencing. But
Yeah, do you want me to show my video?
yeah, right away here. And I thought that I never even thought to
Thank you.
Google where that farm is now, but then wait, Sonny's in Langley, and I know, ooh, maybe she can drive out there. And so
Yeah.
when we were talking about case to cover, I said, can you drive out there? And she actually did it. And I was like,
And you guys are going along the drive with us.
this is so cool. It's so very cool. But after the video, we'll talk about the trial and what happened there. It's going to blow your minds.
Prayers, of course, go out to all the families that have been impacted by the sick, twisted man. May their souls rest in peace, as that sign showed. Anyways, you guys, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Okay, so yeah, that's bumper to suck, but I mean, you guys, there wasn't much land left, obviously.
Like I don't know why that jarred me. Like I don't know what it was like back then, but that seems so central to me. It's so.
Yeah.
And I know that they developed the housing and stuff, but I think that wasn't far out of town. It wasn't out of town. It was right there.
Well, no, it was when it was, but though it was when the farm was the actual farm. But all
so is there any kind of like memorial out there or anything to nothing?
Nothing I saw. No, but yeah, like I mean, honestly, at that point, my hands wanted to fall off. The phone died. Like seriously, they were like burning. You know, when they're so cold that they're just aching so bad.
Yeah.
And so we were just like boop, right back to the vehicle but I didn't see anything at all. I wanted to go around just to the other side, but really, it's just more housing on the other, like meaning everything was there to be seen.
Yeah.
But all that stuff again was sold off, and over the years, it's now turned into all that development. Whereas
you just get a really good idea of like the development around it, but the mass of land, like it's a huge area, and I mean it's just so and to think that there probably is no memorial or anything out there is sad to me, because like I know we live in a society that wants to kind of forget bad history and stuff, but how do we remember, how do we learn from things, and how do we memorialize these women who may have made some bad choices and struggled a lot, but they still deserve to be remembered and their lives honored, no matter what kind of life that was. That was a lot sadder than I thought it was going to be. And I mean, husband is hilarious. Like, my God. He's not all there, is he? But he's great. I love him.
My husband.
I get it. We don't want to remember where they were found or where this tragedy happened, but I think it's important. I really do. And you can't just build over it and erase history. Do you know what I mean? It happened there, and I think it's important for people to know what can happen when we're not paying attention.
I was gonna say so they said that they had found 30 DNA profiles on the land. Now, obviously, there was house development because they had sold off land, a lot of their land. So development had happened, but they're not about to tear down all this new development,
No, for sure.
So
I understand.
So meaning when he says that he had one more to go, that, which because he was at 49 and he just wanted, he wanted another one to make it even at 50. So just meaning, so for the families of potentially some of these other victims, again, there was housing all built on it, and they're not about to bulldoze all this housing, and so hence why there's still going to be bodies that are going to be underneath some of that land that will remain there, really. But it is sad. And honestly, when you see the shed that's still standing in that little other portable that's there, it
Hmm.
really kind of, I mean, right when you get to it, you just are impacted by the fact of what has happened here.
Hmm.
Like, of course, you wouldn't know the gravity. Maybe if we went back in the time where we can actually look at the farm, which only we can do by pictures now.
Hmm.
But just the gravity, and honestly, I'm not the person. I could never move into Chris Watts's home. I could
No.
never. I don't care how cheap you got it. I don't want to live anywhere near that Picton farm. In that, like I would never purchase anything myself. But other people, first of all, either don't know about it now or
Hmm.
don't care. Or maybe they got a better deal because of what the farmland was around there. It's just, I wouldn't want that memory beside
Hmm.
me personally, being a deep empath that I am. I just wouldn't want to feel that type of energy around me,
Hmm.
and the sadness that went on. Uh, just absolutely, because now, Charmaine, I think you know this as well, that they're trying to get rid of the evidence now, like basically
Yeah.
that, I think there was over like, what was it, 12, 13, 1400 pieces or something like that of
I've
evidence.
got I've got the numbers in front of me.
Yeah, go
I'll
ahead. Actually, I just quickly need to run to the washroom if you don't mind.
okay.
But anyways, so I'll just be right back.
So there were over 40,000 photographs taken of the crime scene. 235,000 items taken from the farm. There were over 600,000 exhibits at trial. And then the prosecution had 98 witnesses and the defense had 30 witnesses. So that kind of gives you an idea of the scale of this investigation once it was actually investigated. And like I said, had it not been for that rookie cop finding that inhaler, these missing women would still be missing. And like Sunny said, they're not going to start bulldozing these houses, but how many of those 144 women that were missing or murdered from Vancouver um, possibly could never be found because some of their remains could be, mixed in with the soil, or I don't know what was up with that mound of dirt, that big mound of dirt there on the other side of the fence that Sunny was showing. Was that from the farm? Could there be something in there? I mean, we'll never know, and it's devastatingly sad to think that these women are just gone. They're just gone. Some of them did pop up in other communities, and they were found, but the majority of them have never been found. And that just, I think that's got a lot to do with how that video hit me. That just the kind of urbanization of the area. We've like it just, I don't know, it leaves so many what ifs. Like, what if there's even one family that could have some peace knowing where their loved one is? Um, but what do? You can't be bulldozing people's houses or ripping up the Home Depot or whatever to maybe find something. Like, there's no easy answer. This is such a tragic case. And so, like Sunny said in the video, they found 30 DNA profiles on on the farm. He was actually originally charged with 27. One of them were dropped because insufficient evidence, so he was charged for 26. He was found guilty of 6, and the other 20 were stayed because of the amount of money, which I know Sunny does know the dollar amount that trial cost, but they decided not to try for those other 20 convictions
70 million.
because, yeah, because the jury actually, and they found him not guilty of first degree murder. They came back with guilty verdict for second degree murder because they felt that the prosecution didn't prove that Willie had planned these murders. Um, so, so and I mean, I don't even know what to say with this. There was actually a witness, and there's 2 women that should have been charged with a crime, um, some kind of crime, because the one, her DNA was found all over the farm as well. She had helped him get women back to the farm, in exchange for drugs or lodging or what have you. But there was one other woman who was staying at the farm with Willie, and they were friends. she supported him, I guess emotionally, whatever a friend girl would do who doesn't need money. But she went into, I believe it's called the Low Track area, of the
Yeah.
Lower East Side of Vancouver,
Yeah.
and helped Willie get a Lady of the Night. Another one, yay! That's twice. I remember. Um, and brought her back to the farm. Now, this woman fell asleep on the couch, and when she woke up, all the lights were off in the trailer. She didn't hear anything, so she just assumed that the girl had left, whatever. But the woman noticed there was a light on over in the slaughterhouse, which was weird because it was like 2, 3 in the morning. So she went over there to see what Willie was doing out there. And she walked in and she actually saw a woman hung up on meat hooks. She
Yeah.
remembered her purple toenails dangling, and Willie was in the process of dismembering and skinning this person. And Willie basically grabbed her wrist, got blood, this woman's blood on her wrist, and said she was a pig, so I slaughtered her like a pig. The woman went back in the house. Willie drove her to the Lower East Side and never saw her again. And she had DNA from this victim on her wrist, and she didn't go to the police. She was scared that Willie would come and get her. Now,
Yeah.
there are also reports saying that she was blackmailing Willie, which I mean, I don't believe, because if that was the case, he would have just killed her. He would have just killed her. But there's no excuse. I don't care how scared you are. Once you're in Vancouver and you're far away from that farm, you go to the police. You get help. Especially, you've still got that victim's DNA on your hands. You go. And she didn't. And she was never charged with a crime. She was never charged with a crime to this day. And she's been on news programs. She's been on documentaries. She's out with her story. Like, she literally walked in and caught Willie in the act and never said a word until after the trial, after he was convicted, after he was in jail, and then she started talking. To me, that's a crime.
Oops. Thank you, Sid. I think there was someone named EK too, and Cindy. Thank you for subscribing to the channel.
So absolutely unbelievable that he was found not guilty of first-degree murder. He was convicted for second-degree murder, was sentenced to the maximum Canadian sentence, 25 years, or it's called life, but life in Canada is 25 years before you're eligible for parole. There's no such thing as no parole in Canada. Life is not life in Canada.
Yeah.
But like I said, now they've got the dangerous offender designation. If you're a special kind of evil, they can tag you with this label, and it makes it that much harder for you to obtain parole. So, but like I said, that Willie was never given that dangerous offender designation. So next month he comes up for day parole. Probably won't get it, but in 2027 he's up for parole.
Yeah. Crazy. Yeah.
It's absolutely heartbreaking.
Well, I was gonna say, and so I'm just kind of like, there was a bunch of pictures, but I know that they're not really big to some people, but like Serena Abbotsway, like her asthma container was found in, of course, Picton stuff, and so there's just this site here. I'll actually
That
just,
horse in that picture,
I know,
that was
Goldie,
his favorite horse. And when the horse
Goldie,
died, he beheaded it himself, took it to a taxidermist, and hung
yeah.
it on his bedroom wall. And it remained there until he was charged.
And I can't seem to find it, but I remember it was like, so in 1995 he killed it's saying that he killed a person. 1996 was one person. 1997 was one person. 1998, I think it was like,
So there was
it's something like 4, then 2, then
yeah,
7.
and 6. So in 1997, I can't remember the victim's name, and I feel like such an ass for not knowing. But
1997.
the one woman, she actually fought back, and she got into
Yeah,
a knife fight with Willie, and she escaped,
she
and she ended up
escaped.
going to a hospital. She still had a handcuff on her. Willie took himself to the hospital, that same hospital, and the woman knew who it was, so she told the doctors that, Willie Picton, whatever. So the nurses found the key to her handcuffs in Willie's pocket and was able to take that off. So Willie was charged with that or arrested for that.
Mm-hmm.
But because of her
Because her
lifestyle,
lifestyle, yeah,
her story or whatever
drug
is
addiction,
they can't, it's not reliable
credible,
witness information.
yeah,
So when it come time to go to trial, the witness didn't show up or the victim didn't show up, so the charges were dropped.
yeah.
And that was 1997. So
Mm-hmm.
you're talking 5 more years of murders that could have been stopped there if the police had just done their job.
Right.
Done their job. And
In 2016, Charmaine, is what was the words that they used in 2016 to basically say what a shit show that
yeah,
like, you know, when something is like beyond epic I think that's what they used, like
mhm.
basically epic proportions of in like uh, not doing their due diligence in 2016, basically not doing their jobs properly, and again creating all these other deaths.
And these, I mean, this case is abhorrent. It is absolutely terrible, but this isn't the only case. Like we talked about Amber Tuckerow and how
Yeah.
the RCMP didn't take that serious. She
All
was
photos.
speechless. There's other cases. The Highway of Tears. Every one of those victims, they're not taken seriously as victims because of their lifestyle or their heritage. Bizarrely enough, but this is the culture of our RCMP, and I believe that it's starting to shift. It's starting to change. But this happened how many years ago? Like 23 years ago, 24
Yeah.
years ago
20,
now.
yeah.
Amber Tuckerow was 12 years ago, 13 years ago. And now we're starting to see a slight shift that they're starting to take these a little more seriously. But are they? Because we still don't have charges. We still don't have a public investigation. I mean, things just aren't taken seriously, and it's hard to fathom that our justice system is failing so many people.
Yeah. Sorry, this was just the one with the bottle. That one was Nancy Plasman, a friend of Picton who once lived with him, found in the debris. Like that was another victim right there. So some of the evidence of these females. Yeah, just like I don't,
And how do you say that he didn't plan the murders when he went?
yeah, he
Like I was asking you in chat, Sonny, if that was the same highway, the route that you would take to or from the Lower East Side to get into Vancouver.
No.
Well, I mean, think about it. The drive is not that long, but to me, they say that if you stab somebody in self-defense to get them away from you and you lift your arm and do it a second time, that is premeditation. So what part of premeditating with that entire drive there and then the entire drive back, maybe because he didn't kill every single person he brought back to the farm, supposedly, but how do they know that? They know that these women were picked up and brought back. That to me is premeditation. So I just don't get it. I don't get it. How he was. I don't know that it would have made a difference. First degree, second degree, he got the maximum sentence regardless. Life should definitely always be actual life. I'm not saying an eye for an eye, but if you take a life, you forfeit your own, and that's just my opinion, coming from relatively close experience. I think that you make these choices, there has to be consequences for those choices. And somebody that's able to murder a minimum of 27 women just because he wasn't convicted of that, but up to possibly 49 or more.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like they're not, there's no rehabilitating these serial killers. You can't fix what's wrong with somebody that takes dozens of lives like this.
Yeah. No. Just on the screen, Charmaine, like I don't know why it's coming up, so hold on. Let me Yeah, like, I mean, East Hastings, first of all, again, that's like 10 blocks of wasteland, is how it was put in the article. It really is. It's just, it's homeless, needles, tents everywhere in front of businesses. It's really crazy. So nobody ever really wants to go past East Hastings.
You know
It,
what? It's kind of interesting that in our criminal justice college, our diploma course in Western Canada, East Hastings is one of the most dangerous high risk areas in Western Canada. So when I was in college, we actually watched police. It wasn't body cam back then. It was actual, like they had a camcorder, and they took it around with them for like a complete month, just recording conversations and interactions with some of these women and homeless people, just to show us more about community policing and the challenges that they face as police officers in that kind of environment. But I mean, there are so many people out there that are, most of them, if not all of them, are addicted to drugs. And
yeah,
that usually, I don't say forces, but a lot of these women turn to sex work to fund that addiction. And what I saw in that documentary was just, I mean, it shakes you as somebody that's brought up in the suburbs of a big city and it's not exposed to all that stuff. It shocks you that there are people out there actually living this life and no way out for them.
yeah,
And for him to recognize that, and
Japan,
because he
yeah,
had money and he tipped good, he became popular in that area. So people wanted him around. They wanted them to. He wanted women wanted Willie to pick them, because he tipped well and he had drugs, and he was the guy to be with.
yeah.
Crazy, but he was the guy to be with. Yeah, I agree with Kathy. I knew what you meant, and that's kind of what I was saying too. Um, I don't like the saying an eye for an eye, because if that were the case, we would be doing some pretty terrible things to these people who are convicted. But I do believe when you get sentenced to life, it should be your natural life behind bars. And I
Yeah.
think it should be an automatic sentence if you're convicted of more than one murder. Like if you're technically, by the standard, a serial killer, and they've got the DNA and you've been found guilty in a court of law, that to me should be an automatic natural life sentence. And I am not against the death penalty. I'll just put that out there now. It's not even a question in Canada. I don't think they'll ever bring it back. But um, yeah, I knew what you meant, and I 100% agree with you. 25 years is not, especially
20,
um,
I know.
Tori Stafford. She was a little girl who was murdered, and one of the people convicted of her murder was a 19-year-old woman. 25 years for a 19-year-old woman. She'll still be of age to bear children when she gets out. I mean, it's not enough. It's not enough for some of these people. Carla Homolka included. Yes, she got a deal and she only served 12 years, but she has kids now. There's just something wrong with that. I'd like to know more about that statement, Stevie. Canada's the Wild West for serial killers. The Highway of Tears, depending. There's Cody Lijbakoff, which I don't know if he had more than the 3 victims. You never ever know. But people, and then the Calgary serial killer, no matter what anybody says, I know there's one lurking out there. There's one in Edmonton. Absolutely. The police have even admitted that. I'm partial to the possibility that that could be the same person. Um, but yeah, just BC and Alberta alone, I can count 4 possible serial killers.
Clifford Olson.
Clifford Olson, I mean, long
Uh,
since.
I'm just
And then
trying to think this. I think Clifford Olson was when I was growing up.
mhm,
That was the one that sticks out in my brain as a child, like when I was 6 or 7.
the Beast of British Columbia. We did an episode on that one as well. And then there's the Beast of Miramichi. He killed women. There are convicted serial killers in Canada, but I'm talking about the still unsolved murder people. that seem to have connections. And I think that's what Stevie's referring to as well. It would be really interesting to pick your brain, Stevie. Where in Canada are you, actually? I suspect East Coast-ish. If you're in Alberta, I'll just like drop dead.
The
What?
Abbotsford
Yeah,
Killer,
it's
which
another one.
is okay, because that's like
Yeah.
Abbotsford is like
What
25
was his
minutes
name?
away.
I actually started researching that one because obviously I remember it being in the news, but I started researching his possible episode. I can't remember his name, but he is terrible. He was,
Oh,
and not his crimes were terrible, but it was what he did after the crimes to the families and to the community.
Terry Driver. Yeah,
Yes, Terry
Terry
Driver. Yeah,
Driver.
that's
He
him.
died though in prison of a
Good.
parent, whatever, in August of 2021.
Hmm.
Dies in prison. Yeah, survivor of a. He was attacked. Yeah, he was
Hmm.
born in January 25th, 1965.
Hmm.
On there. And so thing is that honestly, I don't know much about. I never plan on being in true crime. Simple as that.
Yeah.
So I wasn't paying attention to true crime because I can't like I have such a hard time dealing with it. It's taken me during this experience being on the YouTuber to have to deal with how to push this to the side so that you can search these cases because
Hmm.
it's so heart-wrenching, and I like I said just wasn't into true crime at all. I don't like to know that all these people are dying at the hands of others. It's sad, it's horrific, and it's a lot on the heart. So I don't know a ton about Canadian true crime cases whatsoever because I didn't plan on being in true crime. And it was only because of the Delphi case that I happened to click on one day, which led me to the Suzanne Morphew case, you know. But it really is the feeling of bringing awareness to people, about cases or about missing people and stuff like that. That's the part that makes it worthwhile.
And giving them their memory back. You know what I mean? And I mean, I'm terrible for it because these people, they have so many victims and it's easy to remember the
Miss Douglas.
perpetrator's name, but to remember every single victim, it's
Yeah.
it's not meant to sound disrespectful, but there's no way that I can remember all of Ted Bundy's victims and Gacy's
Oh,
victims and then the Clifford Olson's victims and Picton's
yeah.
victims and all these names of these doesn't diminish their importance to their families, or if they didn't have a family, to their lives. Every single one of them
Yeah.
mattered. And Stevie Fontario, my God, what did you like? Like I said, I'd love to pick your brain about like Bruce MacArthur, and that was the serial killer most recently. He buried some of his victims' body parts in planters because he was a landscaper. Um, from the gay village because these men were gay and most of them were not white, I guess is a good way to put it. The police never looked into it. Just another case of the police not policing.
Yeah. Hmm. Um, do you know? So, anyways, you guys, what's in front of you right now? This is the low track, basically, that you're talking about. So Vancouver's straight ahead, but this is East Hastings. This is where, and this is nominal to what it looks like. Truly, what you're seeing here, like I said. So this is where he would come, Picton, to this area, to pick up the females, most of them indigenous. So this is kind of like the area that nobody really likes to go near. It's
Hmm.
like this is nothing compared to what it truly looks like.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, but and it just goes down. It's like about 10 blocks, you
Hmm.
know.
And
But
like you find needles and used condoms and drugs and just, I mean, at every little nook and cranny, there's usually like a homeless person or evidence that a homeless person had spent the night there. It's a very, very sad walk. And like I said, in college, and we watched that camcorder video back then of police officers going through every back alley, talking to every single person that they come across for purposes of our community policing course. It was sad and shocking the stuff that they would come across just on a regular beat walk. Did we mention, I know that we talked about it before we went live, but did we mention how BC Health Services put out an alert back when Picton was just in custody, basically saying if you
Mm,
have pork products in your freezer that you got
right.
from this farm, you
Yeah.
need to bring it in because it could have human remains in it. Possibility that if it's consumed, people could have been exposed to hepatitis B. They didn't know enough but they thought maybe HIV, because these women live these high risk lifestyles. Like, and they went on TV on the news and put this alert out. Now, can you imagine being the family that just had, a dinner, a pork chop dinner or a pork roast dinner from the Picton farm, and then seeing this alert come on? Could you imagine?
Mm,
Could you imagine being the family of a missing woman and getting that alert? Like, I just, I
I know. Uh,
can't.
yeah. Right. That makes me want to vomit just thinking about it.
Just
Yeah.
thinking about and putting yourself in somebody's shoes. And Sonny, you lived close enough.
Listen,
It's possible that you had pork chops in your freezer at the time. Like, but maybe
well,
not from the
again,
farm, but
yeah.
you know what I mean. It
Like
just
honestly, right. Uh,
and to have the government come out on the news and say that is just,
mhm,
it takes it to a different level of they're for real right now.
I know. Like seriously, like this is just a. I mean, like I said, it's the largest serial
Right.
killer case in Canada. Um, like I said, and you know he hit the 49 just by what he said to that police officer in the jail. There just needed one more to get to 50, as if like just come on, one more. Oh, once I hit 50, now I just need to get to 100. You
Right.
know.
And my
Uh,
question is because those charges were stayed.
yes,
I,
right.
I feel like,
I
okay, so if
wonder.
they were stayed, you can still rebring them. So maybe it's time to rebring them because he's eligible for day parole next
Right.
month. Maybe now's a good time. Maybe it's good that you haven't destroyed the evidence. Let's keep him in prison. Now that it's
Well,
possible to give him consecutive sentences, let's keep him locked up.
absolutely. Like, but yeah, like I don't like I said, I guess we just don't know how that works. Where Travis, Travis,
Yeah,
you seem to know stuff about Canada.
yeah.
That's the Texas lawyer that comes on our channel. Um, Travis might know that answer to that.
I
I'm
actually
sure.
have a couple of friends who they don't do criminal law, but I bet you they could either point me in the direction or find the answer to that. Maybe I'll look into it.
Mm-hmm.
See what staying charges means because I always thought that means they're basically put on ice.
Mm.
They're not
Mm.
dropping charges, but they're not going to proceed with trial. But they could at a later date. But I would think that because we're so close to this day parole eligibility,
Yeah.
that it would have been in the news if they were even
When's that again? 2024. When?
next month,
Next
February,
month.
like
Yeah.
right
That's.
now.
Thank you. February.
Like he's literally sitting in his jail cell going, I could be out on day parole.
But he
Like
not gonna. He
he's
was.
not going to, but you know what I mean? Giving that man even the slightest shred of hope makes me want to vomit. Like he should think that he's going to die in prison. So I thought that would be the best place to stop. We do continue talking about some other cases and then just some chit chat about other topics. Like I said, you can click on the link in the show notes to go and see that entire live stream and read the chat replay. And make sure you join us next time on True Crime Canada. That's Saturdays. I usually post the time on our Facebook page. But anyways, about Willie Picton. Now, I said in the live stream that he is eligible for day parole come February 2024, so next month. And that is shocking. And 20 of his charges were stayed. But after a little bit of research, I come to find out that charges that are stayed can be rebrought, but they only have a year to rebring those charges. So as it stands right now, they can't rebring those charges against him to try him for those other 20 murders. So I mean, technically speaking, he is eligible for day parole next month, and his 25-year sentence runs out in March of 2027. I do believe he still has to qualify for parole. There's no guarantee he's going to get out. If that's the case, chances are he won't get out, but it's still an absolute tragedy. I don't understand our system at all. But thank you so much for listening, and I will talk to you next time on True Crime Story Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the podcast and share it with your friends. If you don't mind giving us a 5-star rating, it's going to help our show grow. You can reach us at truecrimestorypod@gmail.com or on our Facebook page through Messenger. Thanks again for listening.